A former Kentucky quarterback has committed to play at Louisville to play tight end. We'll talk about Joey Gatewood coming to the Cardinals on today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Stay tuned.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Joining me seemingly weekly now, my good friend Grant Mulligan, who serves as a recruiting analyst for the state of Louisville.com. Grant, what's going on, man? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Glad to be here. Glad to be talking about one of the strangest commits in the Brom era.
Very interesting, to say the least. We'll start out by talking about former UK quarterback Joey Gatewood heading to Louisville to play tight end? ? We'll see. We'll then talk about a new Flyville 24 commitment, Trent Carter, and then another 2024 linebacker, Nicholas Rodriguez, included Louisville in his most recent list cut. So a lot of football stuff to talk about on today's show. Grant, beginning with the transfer portal, Joey Gatewood, who has been with multiple programs since entering college, mainly at the quarterback position. Started out at Auburn at quarterback. Didn't work out there. Goes to Kentucky. There's a lot of hype surrounding that recruitment. Gets beat out by Will Levis. Ends up transferring again, this time to Central Florida, and at some point transfers from quarterback to wide receiver, but has not caught a single pass in his tenure in college. Now he's at Louisville, and early indications, according to Jody Demling of 24/7 Sports Cardinal Authority, which he's definitely one to believe, Louisville looks at him as a tight end. Just kind of walk me through what your thought process was when you heard this news.
This is definitely the most, as I said in the beginning, the most interesting commitment that we've gotten so far. I think Brom has done a fantastic job in the transfer portal thus far, and it makes me hesitant to cast any kind of question on what's going on there. I can definitely see the athletic benefit, and that was one of the biggest things that worked in Joey's favor coming out of high school. I have to admit, I thought he was going to be a stud as a quarterback. I loved his tape. I thought he would feast at Auburn. Never worked out as a passer. Never worked out as a wide receiver for UCF. But he has the physical traits to play that position, and that's really all we can talk about at this point. I mean, he has great athleticism. Mobility was always one of his calling cards when he was playing quarterback when he was in high school. He moves really well. He's a bigger quarterback, always was. He's about, I think, last listed at 6'3", 233. So you can add some mass there. The thing that I'm most curious about is how he fares as a blocker, because it's much easier to transfer from a quarterback to a receiving tight end, which we saw from Flyville 23 commit Jamari Johnson, who went from quarterback to tight end and made his heyday as a receiver mostly. But this room right now seems to be lacking a number one blocking option, or at least someone with a strong blocking pedigree. So it makes me wonder, Jamari Johnson and Joey Gatewood could both end up being top end receiving options, but I'm curious as to who's going to step up as the team's top blocker.
I mean, I'm torn on this. Like, I obviously want to trust Jeff Brom, because as big of an offensive guru that he is, if he feels like he can go out and get a player to play tight end and do it well, I mean, you would have to assume that, who am I to judge, that area of expertise and things of that nature. I mean, you've seen time and time again quarterbacks, translate over into wide receiver. I mean, Hines Ward, Anquan Bolden, some very notable players in the NFL, and I'm not making that comparison to suggest that he's going to be an NFL starting tight end. I'm suggesting that these changes of positions happen. One way, or one position that I look at, or one player, Trey Burton, was sort of a hybrid quarterback at Florida, and then, made the full-time switch over to tight end, had the physical attributes, moved well for his size. with Gatewood not having caught a single pass, I think it's sort of banking on that, potential for the future. When you look at this room, the tight end room, and I think that, I've gone on record saying that I don't think Louisville has a glaring need, but if you were to convince me that there was a glaring need, it's tight end. They have Jamari Johnson. They lose Francis Sherman and Des Melton. You add a guy like Joey Gatewood. Do you feel like this program still needs to add another tight end ahead of next season because they do have open scholarships?
I think after losing two guys in the room, and I don't know if they expected to lose both of them or not, but the staff has clearly done their homework in the portal. I mean, they've been involved with both transfers and junior college level
Right.
transfer recruits. I think that there's a real possibility that they aren't done at least kicking the tires on the position. I don't know if it's a lock that they're going to take another one before the season starts, but I think they're absolutely going to continue doing their homework at the position. I would be very surprised if it came in the form of a transfer. I think JUCO would be the most likely outcome of where our next tight end could be coming from. But I was very surprised to see Joey Gatewood join the tight end room. So he
That
very
was
easily
pretty interesting. Of all the
yeah.
current names, like I heard that name and it took me a while to register what name I
That
was
Joey
thinking.
Gatewood?
And I was like, why does that name sound so familiar? And I looked at it,
Right.
his ESPN profile. I said, no. Like, we just got a quarterback, and this is before I saw that there was the possibility of tight end. I'm like, we did not just add another quarterback. Like, we must be losing somebody or something.
Right.
And no, tight end is the way to go. Grant, it feels like, barring something unknown, like maybe adding a JUCO tight end that could slot into the starting role, it just feels like the writing is going to be on the wall that Louisville's going to have to rely on Jamari Johnson sooner rather than later. I understand, the physical aspect of it that he brings to the table, along with his athleticism, is a unique mixture, but he's still a true freshman. Learning the offense, learning the ins and outs. Do you feel comfortable, handing the reins over to Jamari Johnson day one to start for Louisville next fall?
I don't know if we necessarily want to start him day one, but you could do a lot worse. I mean, he is a true yes,
You could.
you could, but somebody with that kind of physical upside and receiving upside is going to see a significant role in the offense. Maybe it's not the immediate starting, but I think he's going to command reps right away. And I firmly believe that he should, barring any unforeseen addition to the room, should be starting by the end of the year. I think he's got that level of talent. I think it would benefit the team to maybe ease him into it a bit, just give him some rotational snaps, get him some looks in the receiving game, which would surely be a great way to get him involved and help the offense. But I think I wouldn't pencil him in as the week one starter. I wouldn't hate it. I would be very excited to see him ready to rock and roll week one and see that the staff has confidence in him to do so.
Right.
But I would ideally like to ease him into it. I do not know if starting Gatewood, a transitioning quarterback. I don't think that's in the plan. But if they roll out with the starting Joey Gatewood week one, I'm just gonna have to trust the process on that one.
That is, and really quickly before we get into the Flyville 24 class, in a couple sentences, what is, in your opinion, the realistic ceiling for Joey Gatewood next year for Louisville? What's the ceiling? It has to be realistic. Don't tell me he's going to be a first-team All-American.
No, I think that the realistic ceiling is possibly a red zone mismatch or a seam stretcher. I don't see him really getting more than a couple to a few looks a game. I could be completely wrong. His ceiling could be what we see Jamari Johnson grow into, where he's a primary receiving weapon. I don't really see more than 200, 300 yards and maybe chip in a couple touchdowns. But I would love to be
awesome,
surprised.
Though. Yeah, but that's still awesome considering who you have in the receiving core. But I want to kind of take a little bit of a chance to switch gears a little bit, go to the Flyville 24 class. There is a new commitment, Trent Carter, linebacker from the state of Florida. We'll talk about what the Jacksonville native brings to the Cardinals program here momentarily after we talk about our friends over at Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious snack but don't want all of the sugar and calories, then you need to try the best tasting protein bar ever, that is Built. You simply get the best of both worlds. It's healthy as a protein bar. If you don't believe me, go to Built.com, scroll down to the macros chart to check that out, and they're all covered in 100% real chocolate, so you get that aspect of a candy bar as well. A lot of variety in terms of flavors, from churro, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream, so on and so forth. Usually you had to get them at Built.com, not any longer. If you go to Walmart, usually go to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of 4 Built Bars, cookies and cream, etc. Or if you're more prone to going to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, puff, and churro puff. You can thank me later, all available with Built. Thanks again for making Locked On Louisville your first listen every day. Every dayers coming up on tomorrow's episode of the show. We're talking about more players that have scheduled official visits. James Madison II, Derek McFall among those that are planning visits. But nonetheless, into the second segment with my good friend Grant Mulligan. Grant, new Flyville 24 commitment, Trent Carter, 3-star linebacker out of Jacksonville, Florida. Linebacker obviously is a position of need moving forward. What are your overall thoughts initially on this commitment for Louisville?
I like the player, and I think it's going to show a lot with Mark Ivy leading the linebacker room, is that, and we'll discuss another player from this region or this state as well, is that Ivy loves to recruit that Florida area. So, and we saw that, and Ashton Gelati was a Florida prospect back when he was recruiting defensive linemen, and that's a place where he really has a recruiting foothold, or he's spent a lot of time. So I think we're already starting to see that recruiting connection paying off. In terms of what we're getting in Trent Carter, is one of the things I like the most about him, and it jumps off immediately, is his fundamentals as a tackler. And he doesn't get lost when making, he doesn't slip away, or he doesn't let his defender slip away. He squares up, he wraps up, he drives to the ground. He's very physical. He looks to make the sound play, not going to take somebody's head off, but he's making very strong foundational tackles, not letting defenders slip by him. I think that in the room, I don't know how early he's going to see the field, but I think there's a definitive role for him at being an ace special teams player with that kind of open field tackling ability, and bring him along a little bit. I think he's got to work a little bit on the mental side of his game, maybe speed up. He's got to match the feet to the reads. I think sometimes he's a bit of a step slow getting to the ball carrier, but that he shows a lot of promise. He's got a lot of physical traits that you like. He's got the body type that you're looking for. On tape, to me, he looks to have long arms, which is a big attribute in linebackers that you want, that reduces the risk of missed tackles. So I think he's absolutely a great foundational piece to throw into that linebacker room, get him some reps on special teams, and then hopefully when he gets to be an upperclassman, hope to see him out there in a more steady presence in the defense.
The production is there. Last year, 110 total tackles, 6 forced fumbles, 5 quarterback hurries, 4 pass deflections, 3 fumble recoveries, a sack, and an interception on a team that went 9-5 and made it to the state semifinals. So the production is there. However, you sort of have to use the film to justify, almost, if you're a fan looking at this. Obviously, if you're a coach, you have done your homework. But if you're a fan and you're looking at this recruitment, you're looking at this commitment for Louisville, you almost have to use the film, because the ranking's not going to suggest anything. After all, he's ranked as the 1,131st best prospect according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, outside of the top 150 in the state. And if you're one of those people like me who look at the offer sheets, not necessarily all that impressive. It seems like Coastal Carolina was the other big contender in this recruitment. I mean, he has offers from Appalachian State, Memphis, Nebraska, Pittsburgh, South Florida, but that's, as far notable as it gets. Do you think that this is a situation to where, maybe with as much talent as the state of Florida has? Maybe this is a player who possibly has kind of slipped through the cracks in terms of rankings. Is it too early? How do you justify, the low ranking and the low offer sheet with kind of what you're seeing on film that leads you to believe that, he might be better than that suggests?
Well, I wouldn't call him anything above a 3-star. I think he could be underrated to a degree, and maybe some teams have passed on him, but I
Right.
don't think that he has that 4-star, 5-star pedigree. I do think though that he's being courted by some programs that have come or that have some pretty solid linebacker play and some good
Right.
linebacker coaching, like Coastal Carolina, guys like Teddy Gallagher, excuse me if I'm saying that right, who've gone on to be really productive college players, and they've done really good job in developing. So I
Sure.
think one thing that is notable to look at is that programs that are known for developing linebackers are looking at him. And I see him very much in the same vein as which it's going to take him to be a developmental kind of player. But he has a really strong foundation to work with, and I think he absolutely has a role on the team. I think, like I said, I think it starts in special teams, but he's got a good nose for the ball. Like you said, he's got that forced fumble production. He's
Yeah.
got passes defensed. I think that if we can get the game to speed up for him a little bit, or he can speed up his play a little bit, I think he could absolutely be an impact defender for this defense.
I like that. Grant, we're going to do a little bit of film study. I like how you break
Right.
the game down. I'm going to let you speak your mind on this. Louisville, a little bit of a different defensive based package than what we're used to seeing with the 4-2-5 defense. That means linebackers are used differently. With what you've seen on film from Trent Carter thus far, do you think he projects to be more of an inside linebacker? Do you think that, being 6'2", 216 pounds currently, that he's more of like a Gilbert Frierson, Ben Perry type, where he's kind of a outside linebacker role? What type of linebacker does Carter translate to, in your opinion, at the next level?
In my opinion, I don't think there's a ton of versatility to his game. I could be absolutely wrong, and he could add that to him. I think inside linebacker in this 4-3 or 4-3 defense is the premier role for him. A situation that's going to put him in the box, let him play against the run, maybe getting some coverage with tight ends, but that really highlights his ability as a tackler and to get in and mix it up at the line of scrimmage is going to be his best attribute. So I don't know if I trust him enough from a athleticism standpoint to move to a Gilbert Frierson, Ben Perry kind of hybrid safety role, which has more coverage responsibilities. If I'm if I'm Ron English, if I'm the defensive coordinator here, I want to put him in as many run stopping uh, positions as I can. I feel like that's where he's going to benefit the most, and I think that's where he can really be a big contributor.
I definitely agree there. I like, and Louisville needs inside linebackers as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that the future is maybe better than people might suggest it is, but you still have to reload. And I think the inside linebacker is such a crucial part to the puzzle that is the team's defense. I have to be honest, this next prospect is perhaps one of my favorite prospects that Louisville is going after. Nicholas Rodriguez cut his list. It's a star-studded list. Louisville is right to get in the mix now because he's going to be a 4-star by the time signing day rolls around. We're going to talk about Nicholas Rodriguez here in just a moment after we talk about our friends over at FanDuel. Make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs, or what's remaining of it, because right now new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if that first bet doesn't win. So many great opportunities from promotions daily. It's a safe and secure app to use, and you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on all of the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Grant Mulligan, final segment of the show with the man, the myth, and the legend himself. Congrats on your engagement, by the way.
Thank you,
My
brother.
man, it will be a married man before you know it.
Thank you,
Sorry,
brother.
ladies. But Grant, I got to be honest with you. I try not to be overly enthusiastic when it comes to talking about prospects because I don't like the sunshine pump. I don't
Right.
like to be too out there. But I would be lying if I said that I was not a huge fan of Nicholas Rodriguez, 3-star linebacker from the Fort Lauderdale area, currently rated literally a spot outside of the top 600, released his top list. Included in that, along with Louisville, is just LSU, Tennessee, Ohio State, Miami, and West Virginia. So obviously a pretty star-studded list there. What are your overall thoughts on Rodriguez? Am I misconstrued in the way that or misled in my fandom of Rodriguez? What do you see in Rodriguez?
You are absolutely not misled. I turned on the tape and I became a fan immediately. He is the epitome of a guy who is going to quickly rise up the recruiting rankings. I mean, he's got that middle of the pack 3-star, but that offer list says high 4-star, and he plays like one.
Oh my
He had an exceptional junior season. He's a guy you can move all over the place, athletic talent, run and chase guy, very, very physical finisher. When he gets to the ball carrier, you're going to feel him. And one thing that I was really impressed by is he has tremendous upper body strength. He was able to toss around offensive linemen, flip ball carriers on their
Yep.
backs, suplex quarterbacks. I mean, he is physically impressive on every level as a defensive player. He's spending time in the weight room, has to be able to toss guys around like that. I love his versatility. They put him on the edge sometime, let him get out there and rush the quarterback. He's athletic. He moves in space. He can cover. He can run. He can hit. I would love to get a guy like that in this defense. I think he would be a true stud in this class. And I'm gonna let me put my tinfoil hat on for just a moment. If you look at his top 5 graphic, he is clearly wearing the Louisville uniform.
He
The
is,
picture,
but
he's wearing the
you're one
Louisville
of those
uniform.
guys, Grant.
Oh, no. But I had to point it out. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a tinfoil hatter. But that man is wearing the Louisville uniform in his top 5 graphic.
He plays in Fort Lauderdale, which is a
Plays
very
at St. Thomas Aquinas.
yeah,
Plays at one of the best programs in the country.
yes, and on top of that, it's a very talented area. That's why when Louisville gets commitments from the Miami area, you're like, there we go. You'll love to hear that because it's such a talented area. Statistically, it's not like he's some rotational guy. Let me read you these stats. St. Thomas Aquinas was 14-0, won the Florida State title. He totaled 93 tackles. 10 of those were for a loss. He had 5 sacks, 9 quarterback hurries, 3 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles and recoveries, and an interception. Rodriguez is 6'1", 190 pounds. Like I mentioned, has the offers to go there, or has the offers to go with the film and the statistics and the rankings. Gives me James Burgess vibes. I'll just be completely honest. James Burgess from that area in Florida, hard-hitting linebacker to where if he hits you, you're likely not bouncing off of that tackle. And I don't like to throw out these lofty expectations, but I'm telling you, he just gives me vibes of a player that could, be an All-American down the road. But we will see.
But the scheme fit and with the right coaching, I don't think it's unrealistic to set those kind of ceiling for him. I mean, he's shown a lot in one of the top talent rich areas in the country. He's playing against kids who are also going D1 Power 5, and he's pushing them around. I mean, he's a guy who you get excited about adding to the defense because you don't just have one spot that you can put
Right.
him at. He
You
could
can
be an
deploy him
inside
at a couple
linebacker.
different places.
Yes.
For sure. What do you think he fits best at? Because he started on the weak side for St. Thomas Aquinas this past year. I think he has the skill set to be a legitimate, middle inside linebacker, captain of the defense, but he also has the, skill set to also sort of be like an undersized secondary pass rusher off the edge if you were to add that weight. What do you think his best projection is at the next level? Where is he most successful at?
I agree with your assessment about the possibility of using him as an undersized edge rusher, and I think that adds a huge dimension to the defense of being able to have a guy like that who can attack the quarterback on any given down, even if you don't line him up on the line of scrimmage. I think that what they're using him for now, St. Thomas Aquinas as a weak side linebacker, is probably going to be his best spot in college as well. I love his run and chase ability. I trust him in coverage, or at least at the high school level. Obviously, it's going to take an adjustment, but I think giving him the opportunity to flow and run and get after opponents in space, give them some coverage responsibility, just give them the chance to work in a variety of ways for the defense. I just feel like that weak side role really accentuates what he does well, and I think he would truly shine in that kind of environment.
I agree there. I think that the versatility is off the charts, and that's a key. That's a key like encouraging factor. Like that's such a good problem to have. Is okay, he could excel at multiple spots, so let's play him in multiple spots. I feel like versatility is the name of the game defensively nowadays. To where if you're a linebacker, being able to play different roles for different situations really is such a key thing to have. But nonetheless, always great talking football with my guy Grant Mulligan. You can find his work obviously at thestateoflouisville.com. All of our Twitter handles are in the graphic below. If you are listening to this at @defense_ for me, at Grant_Mulligan_, that's Mulligan with 2 L's for his Twitter. But Grant, always nice having you on. Appreciate you tuning in.
Always great to be here, Dalton.
And that's going to wrap up today's episode of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.